Welcome back to RotoMoto. We are back in Salt Lake City for the first time in the year since we spent an entire month here wrapping up the 2020 season. My name is Donnie, and in this video, I will give you 5 riders to look at when making your PulpMX fantasy picks for the first round in Salt Lake, tips for picking your FFLs, weather report, race day schedule, and even a very early look at what my team could be come Saturday. But first, as always, we look back to the stats and info from the previous round in Atlanta. 10,798 total players, of which 6,241 were of the paid championship league. This is the first time since Indy 3 that we've actually had an uptick in players instead of a decline, most likely because the Tuesday rounds just simply catch people off guard, and it's cool to see the championship pool increase above 6,000 again. The perfect team for the night was above normal at 320 points, led by 3 out of 4 of the 52s in the 250 class. Add 30 points with 2 FFLs, and the highest possibility was 350. Justin Cooper has established himself the clear-cut favorite for FFLs in the 250 West, just in time for there to be no races left to pick him. But somewhat surprisingly, Aaron Plessinger pulled his second of the season, one of only 5 riders to score 2 or more, and that was not an easy pick, with just 2% of those opting to pick the 450 FFL guessing correctly. The median championship score drops down to 189, meaning if you scored 190 or more, you did better than half of the paying field. Extra All-Star selection rises slightly this week to 2.55 per team, and it was arguably a good week to do so. There were high scores to be had, but at least 13 of the 16 All-Stars did manage to max out. 22 riders out of 28 were able to score double the lowest total since Orlando 2, a very low amount of 0-point pick trend, the lowest we've had since round 4 actually, led by Robbie Wageman, who missed his 3rd consecutive main event, and Derek Drake, who failed to make the main despite all of his other RM Army soldiers doing so. In the RotoMoto League for the 3rd Atlanta round, Fenson Brinson took the win with 294 points. The DM912 continues to lead the season championship with 3,491 points, now within a real threat range of eclipsing 4,000 with 2 rounds to go. I really don't even want to talk about my team here. 153 until the last lap. I had a total of 37 points in the 250 class and thought it was going to end there until Shock made a very late charge to score double. This was my safe team, by the way. On Sunday, I had my big work event of the year and was completely distracted all day Saturday, so I just picked a simple, safe team so that I could focus elsewhere, and this is what happened. So long story short, never play safe because nothing is actually safe in fantasy moto. My safe 450 team did slightly better with only 1 letdown. This paltry score dropped me out of the top 1,000 and almost 200 points out of the top 100, so I am packing it up, just keeping it warm until I wait for outdoors. The ins and outs list shows many injuries for the 250 class, some we knew about in Orlando and some that have been added. Michael Moseman returns to action and should be a clear-cut top 5 guy. Faulkner, Hampshire, Voland are factory guys that have committed to the outdoor season and will not be lining up for the remaining rounds in Salt Lake. Harlan, Moranz, and Oldenburg all injured themselves while moonlighting in the 450 class during the other coast. Jeremy Hand and Lorenzo Camparisi are last-minute scratches, announcing in just the past few days that they will not be making the trip after sustaining practice crash injuries. The 450 class has 3 guys that may return this weekend. I have seen no word from Fast Freddy, but he is on the entry list. Chiz and Bogle are both set to make trips and will make a decision about racing on race day. The out list stays the same, minus the 250 guys being removed from the list, and Osborne and AC are in full outdoor prep mode, but maybe we see Brayton on race day live again. All right, on to your SLC1 picks. I have 3 guys to target, 1 to avoid, and a high handicap guy for you gamblers out there, starting with the little class and work our way up. We are starting in the 250 class with the rider that I do not want you to pick, even though I think he is the best all-star available this week. Yeah, that's a weird one. Michael Moseman, 4 handicap, clearing away in the top 5 group. But next week is that East-West showdown, a format that makes everyone worth double points except only the top 4 in each division, and Moseman is not one of those, so I would save him. Moseman could very well podium with a little luck, even with both coasts mixed in. He's likely to have a positive handicap next week, and I wouldn't want to miss out on his safety net of making the main with a ton of upside for major points. A 250 rider that I do want you to look at is Lane Shaw. The Texas native is a 7 handicap and has major upside as he has finished in the top 13 twice, and that was with way stiffer competition before the injuries to Oldenburg, Harlan, Moranz, and Hand set in. In his last 5 races, he has made 4 main events and missed the 5th by only 1 spot in the LCQ. There are likely going to be a handful of 12 or higher handicaps in the main this weekend, but if you want a safer pick with just as much upside, this is your play. On the 450 side, for your all-star, I think you should be looking at Jason Anderson. He's the only all-star whose handicap went up from a 3 to a 5, and he has been easily in the conversation for fastest guy on the track the past few weeks. If only he could just get a couple of breaks to fall his way, he'd be a race winner. Also, don't forget that last year in SLC, every single FFL went to an Austrian bike, with every single factory or factory adjacent orange and white rider having a better average finish than they did the rest of the country. Not sure if it's the soil or the elevation, but I think this bodes well for Anderson, as well as Webb, Savachi, Dean, and Muskin as well. A mid-pack guy I want you to look at is Tyler Bowers at a 7. The Bear does not have a ton of upside here, but really no one does. Tyler has made 5 consecutive mains and has finished in the top 17 in the last 3 straight. This late in the season, pretty much everyone's handicap is within a spot of their average finish, but Tyler has only gotten better as the season goes on, and a 7 handicap is pretty decent considering his 2 most recent finishes of 15th each. Your high handicap hero for SLC1 is going to be Maxwell Sanford. I feel like the guys are really missing here, as a 13 handicap is very generous for a guy that has made 3 of the last 4 main events on a bike that has proven to be competitive. His average finish of 19th doesn't wow anyone, but just like Shaw, you have to think of how many free spots he's going to pick up with the removal of Moran's, Harlan, Hand, and Sales. That 13 could easily flirt with 40 points. The 250 FFLs don't have a clear-cut favorite. Craig and Jet both have 2 each, and Colt is also a legit threat. I would probably lean Jet since he's all but eliminated from title contention and can leave it all out on the table lap 1, but I think Craig is still the most likely choice statistically, as he is one of the best starters of his generation. The 450 side is as much of a mess as ever. AP gets his 2nd in ATL3, becoming the 5th rider with 2 or more. I think it's down to Cooper and Roczen as favorites, but again, the soil and altitude could play in the favor of the steel frames, so I think I would lean Cooper if I was looking here. The weather should be unremarkable on Saturday, which is great. Low 60s by the time the night show begins, with a tiny chance of moisture that shouldn't be of any concern for the racers. Should make for some great night racing. The race day schedule is your standard fare, with race day live at 1 p.m. on the East Coast, with the West Coast needing to tune in at 10 a.m. to catch race day live with Blair and Hubbard. The enhanced cheat sheet will hit Patreon about 30 minutes after qualifying at nearly 5 p.m., while the rest of you should watch Twitter and Instagram for the basic cheat sheet to drop around 5:30 or 6. The night show kicks off at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific on the Peacock app and NBCSN, with a live feed of the race. After the race, join us right back here for the RotoMoto Live after race program that begins just after the 450 podium ceremony wraps up. Before I show you my early team for SLC1, I just wanted to remind you that this is an entirely privateer operation. I research, write, shoot, edit, and post every single video myself, in addition to making the cheat sheets and other content I post on here, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to support me and help the channel grow, please consider checking out some of the merch over at rotomoto.co. If you are serious about upping your fantasy game, consider subscribing to the Patreon for access to an additional podcast for every race, our private Discord server, and most importantly, the enhanced cheat sheets that are packed full of so much race day data that'll make your head spin. And if you want to support but don't have the scratch to spare, the easiest way to help is by subscribing to the channel, commenting something productive on the video, and sharing the social media posts with your friends. My Friday morning team will consist of 250 All-Star Colt Nichols at a 1 handicap. He is playing for the championship and will keep himself out of trouble. I have Lane Shaw at a 7, like I discussed before. I am pairing him with Devin Simonson at a 5 for a low-risk upside, and same with Hunter Schlosser at a 6. I'm going with mid-pack handicaps to leave the low ones for the shootout. On the 450 side, I'm looking at Jason Anderson as my all-star, like we talked about before. Tyler Bowers at a 7, hoping he nets another 14th or 15th place finish. Same with Max Anstie, who is also a 7 and has made every single main event since debuting this year. And my riskiest pick of the weekend could be Brandon Hart at a 13. I like a few guys better to make the main, but at a 13, that guarantees double points as long as he sneaks in, hopefully straight from the heat. Do not forget to follow at RotoXMoto on Twitter and Instagram for qualifying insights, injury reports, stats and banners as the race goes on, and of course those ever important fantasy cheat sheets. And if you want even more help making your picks, be sure to check out and subscribe to RotoMoto on Patreon for more access to the enhanced cheat sheet, chock full of more data than you can imagine, help you make those huge point picks. I want to give a shout out to the current Patreon supporters. This channel is made possible by good people like John D, Keith H, and Dane E. Thanks as always for watching RotoMoto. My name is Donnie, and I will see you on race day.